guys, Troll 9002. How are you? I know it's been a long time since I've been able to do a story or whatever. I've been writing mostly poetry and they kind of all down depressing and really suck, so I've been refraining from posting anything because nobody really needs that with everything that's going on right now. But this one, I found this gem buried deep in my computer. It's called Sky Thought Bubble. I think y'all will like it. Settle in, listen up. Of all the strange things I've ever seen in my life, crooked rainbows, big fat rainbow clouds in shapes you can't even describe, of all the strange and funny things I look to the sky for, it seems when I look up and I see the light reflecting off a cloud, making a short little spot of rainbow in the sky, I always wondered what in the world makes those appear. Well, yes, I kind of understood what the scientific reason is behind it. That, to me, that science stuff was always like weather balloon excuse for a UFO sighting. And so, it was on this day while out on break from work that I looked up and saw the rainbow bubble, where I was almost certain unicorns lived. And it was a long time before I put it all together. I forget things all the time. It's normal. But I finally put all the pieces together, and this is where my story begins. One day, while I was at work folding clothes, answering the phone, and putting people in changing rooms, I stopped for a moment to take a deep breath, and to stop just for a minute. I hate to do that, it throws off my rhythm, and that's usually about the time that my managers come walking up is when I'm taking deep breaths. Y'all know that feeling. My coworkers care about me, and they just started to take over and kick me off for break. And I went outside where there was plenty of room to breathe, and I wasn't boxed in, and I just went to walk out the door. The phone on the wall rang, and I ran over to pick it up as the associate was busy, and it was my girls calling me back to the fitting room. They had a problem with the phone. I had to show them how to fix it, so back into the jungle I go to help. I get back over there and I play with the plugs and switches, as some have a short in them, but if you jiggle them just right, everything comes back up, and there are a couple of buttons that you never push because they put out an electric shock to your fingertips, and that flies throughout your whole body. And I happened to touch two of those at the same time today, and it shocked the crap out of me, and I fell to the floor. I can't tell you what happened while I was on the floor, but I can tell you that after I fell to the floor, I was transported with the speed of the phone transferred to the unicorn bubble that was in the sky. It turns out that that wasn't a home for unicorns, but a home for those thoughts that people forget all the time, like the reason you went into the kitchen and forget why you were in there. That thought goes up into the sky, and it forms into a thought bubble. And when people forget so much is when they get so big, and that is why some days are cloudier than other days. The only way they disappear or get smaller is when people start to remember what they were thinking. Everyone has their own thought bubbles in the sky. Some are white, some are gray, some are just those shapes that you just can't identify. Mine happens to be the one that looks like a unicorn lives there. This is where I was taken to after falling to the floor at work. When I opened my eyes, there was the light refracting off all the ice crystals, and I was in this bubble-like atmosphere where the rainbow colors swirled around the tops and the sides of the bubble. Everything was so peaceful, and it was paradise to me because there were music notes and birds of treble flying around. I hate birds. Usually they peck and bite and scare me. But even though these birds were birds of treble, I was okay with them. I saw flying staffs, too, carrying half notes. A giant altosauras clef was carrying a load of whole notes on their way to the botany class, so they could learn how long was long enough to hang out. 4 beats, I think to myself as I snicker inside. And I hear the soothing sound of water, so I follow it, and I find a magnificent river flowing through a lush jungle of flats and sharps. The river swirled with some dotted eighths, which actually had dots on them, but they weren't polka dots. These mysterious dots were much cuter, which if you know me, it's hard to imagine anything cuter than a polka dot. Anyway, as I walk along the bank of the river, I come across a nice place to sit next to a flat. And you don't want to sit on the flat because their name is deceiving. Even though they have a comfy looking chair look to them, there is no room for your butt. I mean, you can use the space of your crack for a tad bit more room, but how uncomfortable would that be? So, I sat on the ground instead and just watched the swirling water, and suddenly there was a splash, and I heard, "Hey! Do you think this is a free show? Who do you think you are watching?" It was a dotted eighth fish, jumping up and down out of the water, yelling at me. Typical of those fish, and they are often undercounted and skipped over too fast, or not played right. "Pardon me," I hollered back as it swam closer to me, and he thrusted himself onto the bank, and that startled me, but he quickly made introductions and asked me to put him back in the water. I said, "Hey, you think that's going to be free?" "Please," he said, as I had already picked him up and started to put him back in the water, with plenty of time for him not to run out of air and die. His name was C5, and he hoped to grow up one day to be C6 or C7, as he was only a baby dotted eighth note fish. I reassured him that he would, and if I could help I assured him that he would grow up to be a C6 or 7, and if I could help him in any way, I would. And so I walked next to the river while he swam, and we were talking about life. And he told me about how the bubble was made and what happened when the light went out of the bubble. And I told him about the strange things from my world, where people ate fish no matter what kind of note it was, dotted or straight, and how they would spend all day looking to snag the biggest note they could. But in all my life, in my realm, I had never seen a dotted eighth note like him. The colors that shined and shimmered off of him were amazing. I was so relaxed in this place of mystic wonder. Wow! I didn't care if I went back to my realm. I just wanted to stay here in the peace and quiet of the thought bubble. When all of a sudden, this gray cloud appeared from nowhere, and C5 said, "Run! Hide!" I said, "Why? What is that?" I just did what I was told. I ran and hid amongst the flats, and the cloud hovered for a minute, dropped a couple of accidentals, and proceeded down the stream until it was gone. C5 popped back up and yelled, "Hey! You can come out now!" And so I did. Looking around, I said, "What in the world was that?" It's a bad thought that was looking to bring us down, like the bass clef fish over there, who brings everyone down through his attitude, because that's what he is meant to do. I stay away from him, and you should too. I looked at C5 and asked about the accidentals that were dropped on the shore and in the river, to which he replied, "Oh, those were good perspectives that had been forgotten or gotten rid of, so the cloud could stay bad and never lighten up." So why did we have to hide?" I asked. "And why did it stop like it was sniffing out prey?" C5 explained the whole thing to me, and I understood it. And we moved on, walking down the banks, when clumsy me tripped over an accidental, and I was thrown back into the flats. Light and a lightning bolt had struck me, and I lay there for what seemed like forever. Then I sat up, and C5 had grown up to be a C7. That meant instead of swimming in the river, he was able to float in the sky, but not with the clouds, but about 5 ledger lines above the water. And he could breathe normal. I asked him how long I was out. He replied, "It's been a couple months here." "Oh, while you were out, I checked on your life in your own realm, and it seems like people miss you very much. I think even though I like you very much, you should start making arrangements to go home." I felt so guilty for being so selfish, but after all, the girls back home needed to hear about my adventure to the thought bubble in the sky. So I asked C7 how to get home, and he told me to ask the bass clef, as he was the one that brought everyone down at the staff meetings. Surely he knew how to get me down from this thought bubble, and so I waded into the water, and C7 went out to ask the bass if he would come talk to me. grouchy at first, wanting nothing to do with me. Finally agreed and came over and we exchanged pleasantries. And he was like, okay, let's get on with it. I need my peace and you need to go home, freaking troublemaker. Apparently, he heard me answer the questions that the altosauras clef asked the whole notes on his back. Moving on, he said you have to think of one person that puts the same amount of thought into you, and they not only miss you because they can get attention for it, but they miss you because of the impact you have had on their life. Most people never know a person like that their whole life, and you got to think of a person, and that will take you back to the life as it is now. But I don't want to go back. You must. There are so many more people that you need to bring joy to, and you need to show the world that it's okay to be different in the way that you are. And the thing that saddened me the most was I had to go back to making everyone else happy while being alone. As I started to descend out of the bubble, I heard C7 holler, "Raise 'em up, troublemaker! Raise 'em up!" This is when I woke up in the hospital room. That was dark, depressing, and uninviting. That is when I woke up to the person that thinks of me as much as I think of you. A smile rolls across my face, and I realize I'm home, in my realm. And everything is like if I woke up from a nap. Where you have a wonderful dream that was just the pick-me-up perfect amount of everything you needed. How long was I out? 4 years. 4 long years. I didn't think you were going to come back to me. I missed you so much. How are you feeling? Ready to go. Let's get out of here. I left out of that place and entered into the world that was totally different to the one I had left 4 years prior. That day, I started over. I prided myself on keeping people happy, knowing if I ever got to where I was before, I could always go back to my thought bubble in the sky and stay for a minute and go. Dreams toted me back and forth every now and then, but for the most part, I made everyone happy until the day I died. And I made everyone as pleasant as I could. And when I passed, I had popcorn inserted into my body. This way I could have a smoking hot body for once in my life and wow someone, just once, without opening my mouth. I came back for you, one thought of you. Be that person in someone's life. The one person brings them back. The person that makes you feel good. And they are nice to you, not because they need something, but because that's how they are. Pick someone that is part of your favorite major or minor chord and live musically in harmony together. This is Troll 9002 signing out. 1:18 in the morning. Hope to get some sleep tonight. Y'all know my insomnia. See you the next page turn. Take care.